On this episode of Crime Scenes with Coffee Beans, join me, Belinda Brady, as I discuss the case of Lisa Harnum, the woman whose fiance threw her off their 15th story balcony rather than let her leave. Coming up right after this. Hi everyone, welcome to Crime Scenes with Coffee Beans. I'm your host Belinda Brady and welcome guys. Welcome to this episode which I have titled God Help Me, the Murder of Lisa Harnum. Now before I do get started, I just want to give any new listeners a very quick rundown of what this podcast is about. I am a one-woman podcast. I do all the research, I put everything together, I record, I edit, etc. And I absolutely love it. I like to think of my podcast as I'm having a conversation with friends about crime, and I hope that is how it comes across. Now, I do also like to quickly run through the stats. So currently sitting at, I'm going to do a top 3 of countries. Currently sitting at number 1 for downloads is Australia, followed by the United States, followed by New Zealand. And before I go any further too, I will mention my sources. My sources for this episode are abc.net.au, marieclaire.com.au, smh.com.au, mamamia.com.au, and news.yahoo.com and news.com.au. And I will give a trigger warning, guys. This does discuss domestic violence in depth. So if that is upsetting for you to listen to, listener discretion is advised. And as my more seasoned listeners know, I also drink coffee while I'm talking to you about whatever I'm talking to you about. So today I'm talking to you about this crime while I'm drinking my staple, my black coffee with salted caramel syrup. The heart wants what it wants, guys. Some days I'll do different, but 9 times out of 10 it's black coffee with some kind of syrup. So whatever you're drinking, whatever you are doing with your driving or running or gymming or getting ready to sleep, thank you for lending me your ears. Thank you for keeping me company, and let's get stuck right into it. The episode, God Help Me, the Murder of Lisa Harnum. Now, love is love until it's not. And when love turns toxic or abusive, love is no longer love, and it is downright scary, and in some cases life-threatening. And this is where Lisa Harnum found herself, in the grips of a frightening and scary love, and in the grips of a terribly abusive relationship until the day it finally imploded in an absolutely horrific way. Now, Lisa Harnum was born on the 12th of June 1981 in Toronto, Canada, to her mother, Joan. Joan remembers her only daughter as having a full head of hair, and her older brother Jason chose his baby sister's name, and he was also smitten with her, saying she was adorable and sweet. Now, the trio were close, and as Lisa grew, it was clear she was a smart girl and was not afraid of giving things a red-hot go. As a kid, she loved playing football and practicing karate with her brother, but music was her real passion, and she studied tap, ballet, and jazz from the ages of 3 to 16, and she competed in dance contests across the US and Canada. And it was around this time that Lisa began to feel self-conscious about her body, and this was when her mother noticed something wasn't quite right. Her daughter had stopped eating and had developed an eating disorder, and Joan finally had Lisa admitted to hospital for treatment, but unfortunately, and as is the case for many people with eating disorders, this is something that Lisa would struggle with for the rest of her life. Joan said Lisa had this inner ability to keep pushing and trying, and if that didn't work, she would try something else. So, not deterred, She scored a job at the fragrance section of a department store in Toronto, and the department store was called The Bay. And it was there that she met a girl called Gittany. And Gittany would fast become one of Lisa's closest friends. The two girls loved partying and clubbing, and Gittany said that Lisa was attracted to older men because she wanted someone to take care of her. By the end of 2004, Lisa decided to take a chance and move to Australia on a 12-month working visa. And she arrived in Melbourne, Victoria in January of 2005. Now, when she arrived, her mother Joan came with her just to see where her daughter would be living and to make sure she was set up and that everything was going to be okay for her. But Joan needn't have worried. Lisa thrived in her new role and her country. And she started working at a company called the Sydney Cosmetics Company and began a relationship with a colleague who was 20 years older than her. The two traveled the world together and eventually got engaged, but the age gap became a sore point for Lisa, and the pair ended up breaking off their engagement. Now, fast forward a few years later, it's 2009, and Lisa is still in Australia. I would imagine she could just keep extending this working visa. And she has moved from Melbourne, Victoria, to Sydney, New South Wales, and is studying and working at a hair and beauty college in Bondi Junction, which is a stone's throw away from the world famous Bondi Beach in New South Wales. And it was there that she met a new man, a married man. And though charming and funny and everything you could want for your daughter, Joan had her reservations about this relationship. And when she visited her daughter for Christmas that year, she talked to Lisa about the seriousness of getting involved with a married man, and Lisa agreed to end the relationship. So she ended the relationship, but not before her now ex-married boyfriend introduced her to a man that would skew Lisa's life trajectory, and that man's name was Simon Gittany. Now, I couldn't find a great deal of info on Simon's background, but I can tell you that he was raised in a large Lebanese family and grew up in the Western Sydney suburb of Maryland. I did, however, find out about his troubled past. Now, in 1995, after a few run-ins with the police, he was sentenced to 2 years in jail for biting the ear of a senior police officer. The story goes Simon was caught in the Western Sydney suburb of Parramatta with stolen goods in his car, and when the cops later arrived at his house to arrest him, he became violent. So he not only severed the ear of a senior constable, he attacked another. Now, for this, he was sentenced to 2.5 years in jail. In 2000, he was in trouble again with the law for drug supply. He was caught with 55 tablets of ecstasy on him, and he was sentenced to 3 years periodic detention. But by the time he met Lisa, he was in the business of importing shoes for his shoe business from the US and lived a pretty flashy lifestyle, strutting around in expensive suits and pretending to be part of Sydney's fashionable mobile set. Now, Lisa didn't know anything about Simon's past. She didn't know he'd been in jail. And when he asked her to move in with him, as a friend to sleep in his spare room in 2010, she accepted. And she told her mother she was only there until she found something else and that she was pretty sure Simon was gay. But 2 months later, Lisa and Simon were a couple, and Lisa told her mother that they were in love. Simon was older than her, which is what she liked, and she felt that he really, really cared about her. Now, Simon's abusive nature was starting to show pretty early on in the piece. Now, in an attempt to isolate her from her friends, as most abusers do, he convinced her to leave the salon she worked at as her friends were polluting her mind and to seek something more suitable, telling Lisa that she should be looking for a better class of people to work with. By September of 2010, Simon had signed a lease on an apartment at the Hyde, which was an apartment complex in Hyde Park in Sydney, which Hyde Park's kind of like New York Central Park, not as big, but it's, very beautiful, very lush, and a very, high-end part of Sydney. And this luxury 15th floor apartment would soon become Lisa's prison, as by this stage Simon's abuse had gone up a notch. He hacked into her email account. He deleted any messages from men. He started deleting her friends on Facebook one by one. And he also told Lisa to stop going to nightclubs as men paid too much attention to her. Lisa was beautiful. I have to say it right here. She was stunning, tall, beautiful long brown hair, beautiful smile. Really, she glowed. She was a glowing, beautiful girl. Who wouldn't look at her? But Simon wasn't having a bar of it. So he stopped her doing everything she loved because men paid her too much attention. And in October 2010, Lisa texted her mother these heartbreaking words: "I miss my family and friends so much. I have no life." Simon then began dictating what she wore, where she went, and who she talked to. He banned her from going to the gym because she would attract unwanted male attention. Instead, he hired a female personal trainer for Lisa, and she could only work out in the apartment. So she couldn't leave the apartment to go meet her personal trainer. The personal trainer would have to come and see her. He told her she could only wear a certain uniform that he had selected for her, and this uniform consisted of plain pants and jackets, flat shoes, no cleavage showing, and her beautiful long hair tied back. He had her convert to his religion. He was Catholic, and it was around this time that Simon began monitoring every single thing Lisa was Googling, planning, or messaging via a surveillance program he had installed on his computer. He had also set up cameras inside and outside their apartment. He had her under 24/7 surveillance. There was nothing Lisa could say or do or mutter to herself that Simon didn't know about. In June 2011, on Lisa's 30th birthday, Simon proposed to Lisa in a restaurant full of his family and friends. Not one of Lisa's friends or family had been invited to be included in the proposal, and he told the room full of his family and friends that he had found someone to serve him after she had accepted his marriage proposal. Meanwhile, in Canada, Lisa's mother, Joan, was beside herself. She had no idea what was going on with her daughter. She just knew she was not in a good situation. Lisa's texts were confusing and told of a great relationship. One day she was texting her mum, "I think I've met my match. I think I love this guy," to the next day her opening up about the abuse and suffocation from Simon. At this point, I need to mention too, at this point, Lisa was only allowed to leave the apartment to buy groceries. That's how under control she was. That's how controlled she was. And I don't think Lisa at this point realized just how under control she was. I think she had been conditioned to think that this was normal, and she had no one around her to tell her that it wasn't. Now, Joan didn't know what to do. She was beside herself, and like many parents who are concerned about a child in what is blatantly an abusive relationship, she didn't want to push Lisa in case she pushed her away, but she would always tell her daughter she was there, and if anything happens, just grab your bag and get the hell out, and then call me right away. Lisa was beyond stuck in her situation, and Simon knew it. She was unemployed and she was in Australia on a working visa. And though Simon had her well and truly under his control, she still would arc up back at him, she would still stand her ground. And during their frequent arguments, he would threaten her with having her visa cancelled and deported back to Canada, which absolutely terrified her because despite her dire situation, Lisa still had dreams of making a life for herself in Australia. She had a dream of having a family in Australia. So the final straw, it seems, the thing that made Lisa go, I've had enough, was when she asked Simon about starting to plan the wedding. She was excited for this wedding. She wanted to start planning it. She wanted to, pick a dress, pick a venue, all of that. And his response was, I'll let you know when we're going to start planning it. Until then, shut up. That was her turning point. And due to the stress of Lisa's situation, her bulimia returned in earnest, as eating disorders do in times of high stress. And Lisa convinced Simon to let her see a life coach by the name of Michelle Richmond. Now, Lisa's personal trainer, the female one who was only allowed to come up to the apartment to train her, had sensed something wasn't right with her client and had recommended Michelle to her. So Lisa had got Simon to agree to Lisa seeing Michelle on the premise that she was getting treated for an old ballet injury, and he even insisted on going to that first appointment with her to drop her off. Now, Michelle said that Lisa was very warm and loving and that you just wanted to wrap her up in a big hug, and Lisa felt the same way because she felt safe with Michelle almost immediately, and she opened up about just how bad her relationship was. Her and Simon had been together 18 months at this point, and the more she told Michelle about Simon's behavior, the more she realized her relationship was anything but healthy. But as most victims in abusive relationships do, she still struggled with the idea of being in an abusive relationship and made excuses for Simon. And Michelle said that Lisa was struggling within herself and she still wanted the fairy tale. Now, Michelle told Lisa what support services were available and what legal services were available to her if she chose to leave. She also advised the best and safest way to do it given Simon's volatile nature. And suddenly, Lisa had gone from having nobody except her mother that she couldn't open up to because she didn't want to scare her, to a support network to help her. She had the means and she had help. It was just on the other side for her, and she decided she was going to take it. Lisa had a plan, and with the help of her personal trainer, she began secretly removing some of her things from the apartment one by one. So as Simon wouldn't notice, he wouldn't come home and everything was gone. She was doing it very slowly, one by one. She also told her mother of her plans, telling her, I need you down here. Her mother replied, do you need me right now? Because I'll come right now. And Lisa replied, it's okay, I can handle it. Now, Simon had been reading Lisa's text between her and her mother, and he knew of her plans to leave him, but he confronted Lisa with this, but didn't tell her that he knew because he was reading her messages. He told her he knew because her personal trainer, Lisa, who had been helping her move her stuff out of the apartment, had betrayed Lisa's trust and told Simon what she had been planning. He then rang Lisa's life coach, who was also helping her, Michelle, and abused and threatened her. And then he made a hysterical Lisa kneel before him, screaming at her that she was to do as she was told. In July 2011, Lisa called her mother in Canada, telling her she needed her to come and get her. Lisa's mother told her she'd be there as soon as she could. She just needed to get the all clear from her employer to get some time off, and she'd be on the next flight over. Lisa also told her mother that when she came to get her and help her get out of the apartment, she would take her mother to go skating. Now, there was a skating rink just below Lisa's apartment in Hyde Park, and she could see people skating through her apartment window, but Simon would never let her go. And Lisa told her mother she'd book a ticket for them to go skating the following week. Sadly, that would never happen because on the morning of the 30th of July, things took a horrific turn. Early that morning, on the 30th of July 2011, Lisa quietly but quickly called her mother again, this time on the phone in her bathroom, whispering, "Mummy, I just want you to know that I love you and Jason with all my heart." Now, at this stage, Joan was beside herself, and when she asked Lisa what was wrong, Lisa whispered again, "Mummy, if anything happens to me, please contact Michelle." She then got her mother to take down Michelle's contact details, making her repeat them back to her several times. When Joan asked, this time with growing fear, "What the hell is going on?" Lisa replied, "Mummy, it's okay. I'll call and talk to you as soon as I can, however I can." That would be the last time Joan would ever talk to her beloved daughter, because what happened next is nothing short of terrifying. Waiting for her to come out of the bathroom was Simon, armed with the knowledge that Lisa was going to leave him thanks to him snooping through her phone and his constant surveillance of her. When Lisa emerged from the bathroom, Simon tried to engage her in a conversation about their situation, but Lisa wasn't having it. She'd had enough. She wanted out, and she told him she was leaving and grabbed her handbag and walked out the apartment door. She was heading towards the lift, and this was shortly before 10 a.m. Simon chased after her, went up behind her, threw his hand over her mouth and physically dragged her back to the apartment. So he's come up behind her, wrapped his hand around her mouth to stop her from screaming, and physically dragged her back in the door. But Lisa managed to bang on the neighbouring apartment's door, screaming, "Please help me, God help me," before she was dragged back in. And this was all captured on the CCTV of the apartment complex's hallway. Meanwhile, in the street below the apartment in Hyde Park, a man by the name of Joshua Rathmel was walking to work when he heard the screams of what he thought was a deranged junkie on an ice bender. That was the nicest way he could describe it. He looked up to see a man with no shirt on throwing what Joshua thought was a black luggage bag over the balcony, and this came from the 15th floor. What Joshua had witnessed was, after Simon had dragged a terrified Lisa back into the apartment, he picked her up and threw a silent Lisa, still clutching her handbag, over their 15th floor balcony and to her death. From the time she tried to escape the apartment to her being thrown over the balcony was a total of 69 seconds. And it wasn't just Joshua who witnessed this supposed deranged junkie throw something off the balcony. Diners and passers-by witnessed it as well, diners from nearby cafes, and when they realised it was in fact a woman that had just been tossed over that railing, they rushed over to help her, including a man by the name of Angus Gray. Angus was a doctor, and he had been driving and had seen the incident and rushed over to see if he could help. When he got to Lisa, he could see that she had a broken leg, broken ribs and a broken back. She had no signs of life, she wasn't breathing, and she had no pulse. Then, after putting on a shirt, jumping in the lift and I guess trying to compose himself, Simon appeared. Now, CCTV footage from the lift shows Simon appearing to be what can only be described as high on adrenaline. He is pacing back and forth in the lift. He's waving his hands. He's being very animated. And when the lift got to the ground floor, Simon ran through the lobby to where Lisa's body laid. He appeared beside her and beside the growing crowd, calm, and said, "Come back, baby, come back." Now, Joshua recognized this man. He recognized Simon as the guy he thought was the junkie, and he was the man he had seen throwing Lisa off the balcony only moments before. Meanwhile, back in Canada, Lisa's mother Joan was in an absolute panic. She had been calling and texting both Lisa and Simon repeatedly with no response. And when the Canadian police, paid her a visit at 2 a.m., she knew the news wasn't good. And she just started crying, "He killed her, he killed her," before they could even break the news to her. Now, Simon told police that Lisa had climbed over the balcony of their unit after he brought her back in and started quizzing her on this supposed secret she was keeping from him. His story goes that he took her back into the unit, into their apartment. She sat on the lounge. He questioned her over this supposed secret, and then she got up, climbed over the balcony, and proceeded to throw herself off it. He told police he tried to stop her from falling and had failed. Telling police he screamed out her name in despair and kept his eyes on her till she hit the ground. Now, police weren't buying his story, and he was charged with Lisa's murder. He was arrested and granted bail in January of 2012, and by the time he went to trial in 2013, he already had a new girlfriend, one who was very vocal about his supposed innocence. Now, Simon pled not guilty and was granted a judge-only trial, saying he had no money for his defense. During the trial, Simon's texts to Lisa, his text messages to the woman he supposedly loved, were revealed, and they didn't paint a nice picture. One text read, "Please don't let any guy talk to you today. Don't look at any guy, as your eyes should only gaze on me, the one." Another gem of a text read, "Who the fuck do you think you are, walking around the house like you own it, or coming and going without my permission? You walk around like a peacock with your hair out." It was also revealed that Lisa had a note in the pants pocket that she was wearing the day she died, and the note was found when she had passed away, and it was torn up, and it read, "There are surveillance cameras inside and outside the house." Lisa had left the tiniest little tidbit of a trail, like Hansel and Gretel trying to find their way back. She was smart enough to know that if something happened, she would need to leave a little tiny tidbit for police, and she did, and they found it. The trial also saw the footage that the apartment's hallway CCTV had captured, and it was the footage of Simon dragging a terrified Lisa back into the unit. In this footage, his hand is very clearly over her mouth. It is not a friendly embrace. It is very clear that he is grabbing her from behind, his hand over her mouth to muffle her. Her eyes are closed, and you can tell what's happening in this image. It's not hard to decipher. And this footage was captured 69 seconds before she fell to her death. The court also saw footage of him in the lift throwing his fists in the air, being very animated after he dropped the woman he supposedly loved over the balcony of their apartment on the 15th floor. Now, in court, Simon was supported by his family, who insisted on his innocence, and his new girlfriend, who described him in the witness chair as the best boyfriend she ever had. But on the 27th of November 2013, Justice Lucy McCallum found Simon Gittany guilty of the murder of Lisa Harnum, which he did in an uncontrollable rage. She said he was playing a role. And in court, he was playing a role, and his evidence was unconvincing. She said the murder wasn't premeditated, but it was a decision Simon made in a fit of rage, and Lisa's last moments would have been in a state of complete terror. She told the courtroom he had shown no remorse and he had little chance for rehabilitation, and then sentenced him to 26 years in jail with an 18-year non-parole period. The court erupted with one of Simon's family members yelling out, "In the name of Jesus Christ, you won't be doing any of that time." And his girlfriend shouted, "You're wrong," before being escorted out of the courtroom. Lisa's mother, Joan, was supportive of the decision, saying that there are no winners here. There were no winners in this case, and that she had lost her daughter. Simon showed no emotion. He later appealed his sentence but lost. He and his girlfriend broke up not long after his sentencing, and the man who liked to live the high life and strut around like a peacock, to use his words, is now just another crim in the yards of Parkley Prison in New South Wales. He's just another criminal, just another number, and that's where he will be until at least December 2031. Lisa is at rest in the Northern Suburbs Memorial Gardens and Crematorium in the Sydney suburb of North Ryde. And in 2014, the Lisa Harnum Foundation was established. This service helps women and children experiencing all forms of domestic violence, and their vision and their statement is a simple one. All they want is for all women and children to live safely, free from fear and violence. And if you are interested in learning more about this foundation, the website is lisahf.org.au. Lisa's mother, Joan, has said that Lisa was always there to help when she sensed someone needed it. And one of her favourite sayings was, "People can ask for help, but animals and children cannot, so we must be their voice." And I not only think this is a beautiful way to think, but a beautiful way to end this podcast. So that's how I'm going to end it. People can ask for help, but animals and children cannot, so we must be their voice. And just a quick note, if anyone is experiencing domestic violence or knows somebody who is and you need some help, there are services available. In Australia, there is 1-800-RESPECT, there is Lifeline, there is Beyond Blue, there is the White Ribbon Foundation. Wherever you are listening to me from, there are services available, so please reach out, get some help if you need it, please. There are people here who care about you and will do everything they can to support you. And that's it, guys. Another episode of Crime Scenes with Coffee Beans done and dusted. Thank you for your company. Just a quick note, if you like ghost stories, I am your girl. If you want to know about Haunted Australia, I am your girl. Subscribe to my channel, subscribe to my podcast, and you will get bonus ghost story episodes. You know you want to. We've got some very cool ghosts down under, I promise you. And as always, thank you so much for listening. I appreciate every one of you. And until next time, guys, stay safe, stay cool, and stay caffeinated. I will catch you all later.